Hello and welcome back. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about lots of things football related. We're going to be diving into Arsenal, Manchester United and all that good stuff. The Premier League is here. Once again, it is preview time. Welcome everybody to the chat today. Do get into the comments all your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions, because it's been a pretty bad week in the world of Manchester United. But it's okay. We can talk about Arsenal. We can talk about football. We can talk about the Premier League. And maybe even talk about the Copa Libertadores final briefly. Of course, Statman Dave, if you are new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Today's main topic will be Arsenal's midfield balance and the youngster they've been linked with today, Arthur Vermeeren, who, for me, looks like potentially one of the best up-and-coming central midfielders in the world of football. Welcome to Josh in the chat. Welcome to Junior as well. It's going to be a good day, guys. Look, Manchester United stink. But there's other things in this world that we can focus on and talk about. This is going to be one hell of a show today, guys. You better just, strap in. Strap in, because it could get a little bit volatile, could get a little crazy. And it could be one of those things that we will, miss chances once again. But anyway, let's kickstart the show by talking about the big thing that is Arsenal, their midfield. So the big question that has emerged is, how do Arsenal get their midfield balance right? Arsenal's midfield this season hasn't looked as well-oiled as last season. That, of course, is a midfield that included the likes of Granit Xhaka, Thomas Partey and Martin Odegaard. Arsenal this season have not really had Thomas Partey. He's been in and out of the team with injury, but also has played as a right fullback, inverting into central midfield, whereas Granit Xhaka, of course, has joined by Leverkusen. Arsenal yet to find that true, blend in that central area. In terms of the style, Arsenal do drop back to a kind of 4-4-2 defensive shape. Odegaard joins Eddie Nketiah and they press. One of the big things I think Arsenal's struggles have been this season is who facilitates that left defensive midfield role when Arsenal are off the ball. I think Odegaard's energy and his pressing is absolutely infectious. So having him high up the pitch is quite important for Arsenal. The options, of course, we've seen. Kai Havertz started the season playing that role. He's not really hit the ground running at Arsenal, if we're really honest with ourselves. Pardon me. Fabio Vieira has shown glimpses and spells of the player that we all perceive him to be, a creative midfielder that can get on the ball and create. But there's been a real lack of maybe that defensive solidity that we had from Granit Xhaka in that Arsenal central area. One of the solutions, obviously, that Arteta looked for in the Manchester City game to great effect was playing Declan Rice in that deep-lying role. Arsenal's attack was a little bit different. Eddie Nketiah was high, Odegaard inside, Saka wide, Martinelli wide, and Zinchenko, the nominal left-back, played higher up the pitch, and that gave Arsenal better balance. But we haven't seen that in many games. Declan Rice playing in this kind of deeper role to create a double pivot instead of Zinchenko moving in there and the 8 being higher. I think long-term for Arsenal, how do they get this right? How do they get the right balance between the creativity, the progression, but also the ability to break teams down? I would quite like to see a lot more of Emile Smith-Rowe. I think he was sensational last week against Sheffield United, and he's got real quality on the ball in playmaking, creating and carrying. So having him in the side obviously would be massively beneficial, but I think that leaves who facilitates that defensive role deep. As I mentioned before, I do like Martin Odegaard squeezing high at the pitch and his pressure. But I do think with Smith-Rowe, you could replicate that pressure, moving Arsenal's midfield slightly different, where Rice would drop back into a left defensive midfield position, Odegaard would drop into right central midfield, Smith-Rowe would become the sort of left striker in a defensive sense, and Arsenal could drop back to this 4-4-2. I think that would be good balance for Arsenal. I really think Martin Odegaard kind of needs to evolve that defensive game and step a little bit deeper, which not only will get him on the ball in deeper areas when they've just won the ball back, which is great considering his ability to find the pass and find the through ball, but also retain possession and make the right decision. But it will also allow Arsenal to be better defensively set up. I also think for the bigger games, it is throwing in, a Thomas Partey into defensive midfield, Odegaard going high, and Partey, partnering Declan Rice at the base, or alternatively bringing Jorginho back into the team. I think that has to happen when Arsenal are facing, your Manchester Cities, your Liverpools, your Newcastles, the big teams in the Premier League this season. So that would be my solution. Odegaard or Declan Rice as the 8, dependent on the opposition. You're playing a weaker opposition, definitely get Martin Odegaard as the 8. If you're playing that stronger opposition, Declan Rice is 8, and that'll be sorted. I do think Arsenal still do need to recruit in that position. I don't think they've quite replaced Granit Xhaka. Do let me know in the comments your kind of ideas here. Boulders, we're talking a little bit more long-term with these solutions, with Emil Smith-Rowe coming in, with Kai Havertz coming in and so forth. So, looking good in the chat. Elle in the chat, sup Dave, what is going on? How are you doing? Mujib in the chat, we miss Xhaka this season. Junior's saying Rabiot instead of Havertz. I don't think Rabiot's got the correct mentality for the Arsenal squad. I think he'd be similar to a Guendouzi, would cause problems and friction in there. But I do think looking at this Arsenal team, I do think they lack maybe that kind of deep-lying, roaming playmaker. And a player that they've been linked with today, who has very, very much impressed me. The times I've watched him, who could facilitate that deeper role. Let's say Jorginho is out the 11, or let's say, Jorginho's the one that we could remove. Bringing in Arthur Vermeeren from Antwerp could be an absolute masterstroke from Arsenal. He's got real duality in his game in terms of he's very comfortable at receiving the balls off the centre-backs, and he's getting a bit of a trademark of finding splitting passes for the inside left forward, running him behind the defence. We'll take a look at a few of those in a second. But also very tenacious off the ball. I think he's quite aggressive when it comes to pressing. The one thing that you'd say he'd have to grow into is obviously his frame, his shape. Currently just 18 years old. He was born in Liège in Belgium on the 7th of February 2005. He's a full Belgium international, having previously played for the under-17s, 18s, 19s, under-21s. He was picked up by the Royal Antwerp Youth Scouts when he was 13 years old from KV Mechelen, which again is kind of a good part of that coaching, that idea of picking up young Belgian players that Antwerp have had recently. Mark van Bommel gave him his debut in August 2022 in a qualification for the Europa Conference League when he was just 17 years old. And Vermeeren was handed his full debut in October 2022. He went on to start an additional 17 league games in the 22-23 season, finishing off the campaign with 1 goal and 2 assists. Since that, obviously, now a real fixture in Mark Vommel's side. And again, if you've watched Antwerp, they're a pretty good footballing side. Mark van Bommel was renowned for kind of really super direct football when he was in the Bundesliga. But very much Antwerp, they play a very nice style. This season, a goal and 2 assists already. But also in the Champions League, he's putting in some really good performances. 2 assists in the 3 games, having around 53 touches per game, 93% pass accuracy completed. There's a lot of nice things about him, and he has been likened to the great Barcelona duo Xavi and Iniesta. I'd say he's probably maybe a little bit more Xavi than Iniesta. Iniesta, from the start of his career, was more of a advanced playmaker, a player that would play high, that would contribute in the final third, whereas Xavi was that kind of, the number 6, the roaming playmaker, would receive off the centre-backs and play through. And that's kind of how I'd liken him, is more of a Xavi than an Iniesta, in those kind of ideas. So it's a really interesting, signing for Arsenal. I think it would be a really good signing for Arsenal. And again, it facilitates exactly the right way as a football club should be run. Signing young, talented players in European football, in South America, in Africa, bringing them in, getting them to play a style of football. So in terms of games where, he's obviously really impressed this season, the Shakhtar game in the Champions League, he was absolutely superb in that match. Came away with 2 assists, completed 93% of his passes, completed 2 out of his 3 dribbles, 2 shots on goal, and won 3 out of his 3 tackles. 100% of his tackles won. In terms of his, positionally, how he was set up in that game, it was kind of playing as that roaming 8, allowing him to sit next to Keita at the base of midfield. We can see there as a roaming 8, he's a little bit higher than his midfield partner, was very much involved in the play. And I think would do a great job for Arsenal. In the Arsenal team, it would be kind of maybe that idea, could play, left central midfield, or left defensive midfield, shall we say, and then move into that advanced area. It's that classic kind of modern-day playmaker that we've come to see. We see these kind of box-to-box players like your Ryan Gravenberchs, who've got great energy from that deep 8 position. Vermeeren's more of that playmaker that's going to look to get on the ball in those deep areas, play make, and then move into the final third. Think Luka Modric Of course, the great Luka Modric is a legend in football, but that's kind of similar to how he was at Tottenham. Was very much that roaming playmaker in a 4-2-3-1, would get on the ball deep and then move into those advanced areas and just completely dictate the Tottenham attack. And that's something that, Vermeeren will do later on in his career. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that we've prepared. Again, we do lots of analysis on this show. If you've got any more questions in the chat, do get them in. Praz is saying what happened to the Locatelli or the Zubamendi links, and Elan saying Zubamendi as well. Again, good option. Really good option. I think he's got a lot of quality about him. I think he's someone that could, be a real decent player for Arsenal. But I think he's kind of maybe more of a holding six than maybe this kind of playmaking 8 that we're talking about right now. Joel in the chat. Ooh, Vermeeren. They highly rate him here in Belgium. He's so good. He's a brilliant little footballer to watch. And he's kind of like my type of footballer, if that makes sense. Just like that little playmaker that's going to get on the ball, that's going to distribute. Your Paul Scholes's, your Xavi's, your Luka Modric's. Those types of players, I absolutely chef's kiss. Love these types of guys. Would be great for Arsenal. Josh in the chat with a great question. Arsenal haven't gone for Mason Mount. Should have gone for Mason Mount instead of Havertz. Josh, I think that's not a bad shout. Manchester United potentially shouldn't have gone for Mason Mount. I think he'd be having a better time playing for Liverpool or Arsenal right now. And I think, with that Rice-Mount partnership, you got to think about relationships in football sometimes between two players. We talk about the triangle, or we'll talk a lot more about the triangle a little bit later on the right-hand side, that I don't think has been playing at the top level this season so far for Arsenal. But those little partnerships between defensive midfielders, between centre-backs, are so, so important. That's why I believe if you buy Declan Rice, you got to buy Mason Mount, or you buy Mason Mount, you got to buy Declan Rice. They just work together. Anyway, let's dive into a little bit of the sort of the game against Shakhtar Donetsk, a game where Arthur was absolutely superb in central midfield, as we mentioned before. We're going to take a look at 2 of his assists in this game. 2 very different assists, but I think the first one, what I like about it is it kind of highlights his tenacity off the ball. You could just see him in the middle of the shot there between Shakhtar's 2, attacking midfielder and their right winger, just there, number 48. So keep an eye on him as we roll through. But as we're watching, again, like you can kind of see the positions that he takes up. He's in a bit of a support play here, but as soon as, the ball's won, straight demanding the ball to feet. And that is a trait of a very, very good young footballer. Confident in his ability to receive in an area, demands the ball to feet. Roams, demands the ball, plays again. A real top quality footballer in the making, you'd say. So drives through, receives, looking to attack the Shakhtar defence. He's got a runner that's just offside, in behind the back line. He comes back on himself to try and obviously retain possession. Again, the passing option is completely offside. You can't look to do that. There's a lot of players around him. It's difficult for him to retain possession, so he's going to come back on himself. Not a bad decision, but he does lose the ball in the tackle. What I like about it now, though, that he doesn't switch off. He's lost the ball in the high area. He's going to go and win the ball back. Instant pressure on the defence, gets a really good foot in, wins a brilliant tackle in the attacking third. Then makes the good decision, slips the ball out to the right-hand side, right winger cuts inside, shoots, and, of course, Antwerp score. But that reaction, I love that. Too many players we see these days, as soon as they lose the ball, they switch off. What I like about Arthur is as soon as he loses the ball, switches on, wins a tackle, creates a goal for his team. Yeah, it's a great finish, don't get me wrong, but that impetus, losing the ball, winning the ball back, absolutely superb. So let's look at an even better clip. So this is the roaming that we spoke about before. He doesn't just play high, he plays low, and he receives off the keeper or off the centre-backs. He's got a great vision about him, an ability to play through. Here's one example, and I mentioned before the relationship that he holds with left wingers. Just have a look at this pass. It's absolutely fantastic. But before he's even received the ball, what I like about him is he's got his head on the swivel, and that's something that scanning is so important, and it's something that he's got. We'll have a look at another clip from the Belgium league in a sec, but the ability to scan is so important. Checks his shoulder, opens himself up, has a look at, he's building a picture around him. So as soon as he's received the ball, again, receives in a nice open manner. First touch, very positive, nobody around him. He can see the pass that's on, and that through ball to that attacking left player is absolutely brilliant. Perfect through ball, perfect weight on it, great finish from the left winger. Antwerp grab a goal. Again, they were 2-0 up in this game, and they eventually lost the game 3-2. But, don't get me wrong, Vermeeren was absolutely fantastic in that game. We've got 2 other kind of assists we want to have a look at. The first one, I believe, is against Westerlo in the Belgium League, but it just kind of showcases that style that we kind of spoke about, and that ability to scan. Actually, is it this game? No, actually, it's another game we're going to look at first. We're going to go for the... No, it is this one. What am I talking about? Absolutely fantastic, I believe. But this time, kind of Roman. We mentioned Roman, so we've just seen him receive off the centre-backs. We're now going to see him receive in a little bit of a higher position, in central midfield. Keeper to centre-back. He's going to come into shot in a second. What I love about this one is the scanning. Just have a look at the scanning here. So he's got him highlighted in central midfield there, just on the centre circle. Looking a little bit like, I'm not bothered. No, I don't need the ball right now. And then bam, he's going to jump into action. Love that kind of gamesmanship about him. But checks his shoulder 1, checks his shoulder number 2. So he's just checked both sides. So he's basically building a picture. If you imagine that kind of like picture he's building on the right side of the pitch, he's also just, he scanned before on the left side of the pitch. He then goes again before he's received the ball. And he's ready. He knows, he's basically built that picture that he knows that he can receive on the half turn. And once again, we mentioned before, the relationship with the left winger. Another good movement off that left-hand side from Michael Ange Balakwisha, I think his name is. We've just got that, nailed that there. But great vision. Slot to pass over the top, in behind the defence. Lovely, lovely assist. Again, vision from deep. Love it. And here's one last one, just to give you a little bit of variation on the assists. This is a classic kind of, deep-lying central midfielder play these days. Winning a 50-50, not winning a 50-50, winning a loose ball in midfield. Driving. 1-2, underlap into the penalty area. Get your head up. Again, like we mentioned before, he's already scanning across. He's already taken a look across there. He's had a look at who's in the penalty area. Into the penalty area, heads up, easy finish. Easy as you like. I think that variation is very, very good. We spoke about that kind of different style of players. He's got that ability to find the left winger in behind the defence. With Arsenal, for Martinelli, would be absolutely superb. He's also got that ability to play the 1-2, continue his motion, get into the box, and then has the kind of the patience and the timing to wait for the right runner to pick out someone on the back stick, which could work really well for Arsenal. But I think it would be a perfect signing for Arsenal. I really, really do. I think he's a top quality young player that is going to play at the top level. He's just he's just that good. I do believe he is. Any questions in the chat? Do get him involved. Let me know what you think about that. Yeah, that's it from ZK. But yeah, no, he's a top quality individual, and he's a player that would really suit what Arsenal are doing right now, and any club in European football should be looking at him. He's been linked with Barcelona, Real Madrid, and of course Arsenal, but a top quality young Belgium talent, which is what we love to see. So that's a little Arsenal chat for you guys. We will dip back into the Arsenal game over the weekend. Of course, they've got the big one facing Newcastle United after their absolute mauling of Manchester United in the midweek. Newcastle are on a pretty decent run of Premier League form, should we say? But they absolutely destroyed Man United with basically a second string. Matt Target in central midfield, Paul Dummett, Emil Kraft at centre half. Absolutely embarrassing. But the work rate, the aggression that we understand from Newcastle is something that Arsenal very much are going to have to deal with. Before we talk about that, though, of course, let's just do it. Let's talk about Manchester United, because why not? They face Fulham tomorrow, 12:30. Abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. The way that everything is going on at the moment, it's really hard to watch them. It's very, very hard to watch them. It's hard to understand what is trying to be proposed between the teams. It's really difficult to understand what Erik ten Hag wants from the players. I think from a basic perspective, the good news today, if we're going to go down the positive FC route, which we do try to do on this channel, alongside his 25% stake in the football club, Jim Ratcliffe is putting $300 million of his own cash into the club to invest in the infrastructure, which is good news for Manchester United. As all the opposition fans are singing at the moment, Old Trafford is falling down. So that needs some infrastructure. The academy needs massive amount of some money pumped into it. And it's something that United really need to step up on. It's just simply not been good enough. Performances this season have been absolutely atrocious. With Manchester United winning 8 games in the 15 so far, like it's so poor considering how much money has been spent to assemble, this squad. This squad right now that is just massively underperforming. And I think it comes down to professionalism. It comes down to heart now. It comes down to determination. It comes down to getting the job done. And that's what we've not seen. At this point, confidence is at such a low. It's about who you are as a person. And it comes down to that. Are you going to stand up and be counted in a moment of real harshness in life? Or are you going to crumble? And we've seen too many players crumble at Manchester United in recent weeks, and that's been a humongous concern. It really is. It's a frustration because these players are good enough. These players are good enough to not be anywhere near where they are right now. Like, you look at Manchester United in the Premier League, they're sat in 8th. They have a negative goal difference of -5. You're looking at the statistics, underlying statistics, they're absolute garbage. They deserve to be lower in the Premier League if we look at the expected points models online. They've only scored 11 goals. They've conceded 16. There's so many negative things, really, with it. And it is about the players. It's about the players showing up. We're at that point again where United have gone through another cycle of a manager that's lost the dressing room, or we keep getting the same players leaking stuff to the press that they don't get rid of summer after summer. And then we realise, we have this same negative attitude appear. It's perplexing. It really is. From a positive perspective, Kobbie Mainoo was absolutely sensational. Midweek against Salford. Grabbed himself 2 assists in the game, created 3 chances, completed 33 out of his 39 passes, 4 out of his 5 accurate long balls, 100% of his 2 dribbles in there, made 1 interception. If there is one man, again, we're pinning our hopes on an 18-year-old. That is how pathetic some players in the squad have played this season. But Kobbie Mainoo is someone that is fresh, that someone is exciting, that for me is someone that I can just enjoy watching. And independent of what United do this weekend, I want to see Kobbie Mainoo play, and I want him to enjoy himself, and I want him to just play football. I think that the issue United have got at the moment is there's too many players playing within themselves, and we need someone like Kobbie, someone that is fresh, someone that is excited, someone that wants to be here, and wants to enjoy his football. And that is a big thing for Manchester United. It's so weird to say this, but we're back at that same cycle. We're back at that same phase where you've got one player that's going to save everything. It's insane. It's absolutely insane, and it should not be that. It shouldn't be one guy that comes back from injury to completely change the makeup of it. But the way that he plays football and he interprets football, it's so fresh. Lost. Not found. A few things that Erik ten Hag said today, not good enough Manchester United in terms of what they're doing. And the biggest issue that United have got is the forward line and the midfield line not scoring enough goals. Between the forwards, United have scored 1 goal. That stat that came out this week. But if you look at, in comparison to Erling Haaland's 47 Premier League goals since the start of last season, likes of Rashford, Bruno, Martial, Casemiro, Anthony, Eriksen have scored fewer goals than one man. Goals need to start coming. We're looking at the big players, looking at Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Rasmus Højlund. It's irrelevant of what has happened this season. They need to start switching on to the game today, the game that they're playing in right now, and make something happen. If something goes wrong for you, get back on the ball, do it again. If you let miss control, get back on the ball, win the ball back, play again. It's about creating that positivity within the team and building positive momentum that has just not been the case this season. Anyway, that was a good bit of therapy. Thanks for listening, guys. Great times for all Manchester United fans. This is probably one of the worst spots we've been in. And we've had Jose, we've had Ollie getting sacked. And again, if Erik ten Hag's plan was to be a direct football sided play in transition, then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer may as well have stayed to be Manchester United manager till now. It is that kind of idea. It's a crazy time. And I really think this is a game that United need to just, blow Fulham away. They need to blow the cobwebs off. They need to be aggressive from the start. They need to be squeezing high, because this Fulham team this season, minus Alexander Mitrovic, are very, 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 very inconsistent. And they've been beaten by the better teams that they've played this season. The likes of Brentford, City, Fulham, Spurs, teams that are heavily possession-based, have opened them up. and they don't have an outlet up front. They don't have the issue of Alexander Mitrovic, who constantly has, the beating of Manchester United. They have problems. Very disappointing season. Their form has been, up and down, up and down, up and down. They're actually overachieving their expected points this season. Just very, very mixed. And it's something that United should just simply blow these guys away. But we've said that so many. United should have won, far more games than they've won this season based on the opposition. Last 2 games, obviously, playing 2 top quality, top organised sides. But Galatasaray, Crystal Palace, there's been games that United should have won and beaten teams, like beating Copenhagen 1-0 with a man-of-the-match performance from Andre Onana isn't where United should be right now. But they're here, they're there. That's exactly what they're going to do. So it has to be a big performance. They have to go away and they have to really open them up. I think one of the concerns with what we've had this season, the football has been not good enough. And as simple as that, it's just not been anywhere near good enough. And that's why they are where they are. Big performances. I don't think I want to really talk much more about them. That's kind of the game. Any thoughts in the chat, guys? Get into the chat. Let me know your thoughts on Manchester United right now. Comparing them to last season under Erik ten Hag. Yeah, there were periods where United were better under ten Hag. But back in the last season, we've kind of seen a similar thing where they've just really been garbage, which is tough to take. You know what I mean? Pretty tough to take. In there. For some reason, the chat was locked for a bit. Mahad in the chat, we need Kobe and Ahmad back ASAP. City interested in Kobe? Oh, no. In your point of view, is it more to the player's side or Ten Hag's tactics from Jonathan? I generally think it is a combination of both. The players are so badly underperforming this season. Like, incredibly underperforming this season. And that's something that you can't, individual player quality is, the football is all about players on the pitch. The manager can set you up, can drill you, can do so much, but at the end of the day, he is not the guy that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. He isn't going to stand up when it's getting messy. It has to be the players. The players have to be on it from that perspective. And you're looking at Manchester United's, goals this season. You've got only Everton, Forest, Bournemouth, Burnley, Palace, Fulham, Luton, Sheffield United have scored fewer goals than United. They're teams that are like fighting relegation this season. United's expected goals isn't great. It's good. It's around 14, but it ranks them mid-table. It's so sloppy. It's really sloppy. Aiden, hey Dave. Not a great time to be a United fan, but I hope Erik ten Hag can turn it around. Yeah, me too. I feel frustrated, really do, because what Erik ten Hag had at Ajax is what I wanted at Manchester United, and we've not seen anything anywhere near that, and that has been the problem. Like where is any hints of that? And we've already spoke many times on this channel about the players that they've got available and blah 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 blah. But we have to see something. We have to see something at some point. We have to see something from some of these attackers. Antony, I wanted Antony to succeed at Manchester United. A big price tag on his back, but he has been woeful. You can't defend him. You also can't defend what, the reports around him as well. It comes across like a bit of a, which again is all about like recruitment. How is a person, which is just irrelevant for Manchester United. Yeah, crazy times. Crazy times. The amount of individual mistakes that have led to goals this season is bad. Yep, completely agree with that. Johnny, attitude of the players seems to be the issue, especially the petulance. Yeah, I think that's a big thing, Johnny. I think they need to be more focused on winning the ball back and being aggressive when they've lost the ball. Like, it's so simple. Football isn't a complicated game when you defend aggressively. It makes things easier. I've spoken so many times about the pressing structure and how that is an issue. But at the same time, you number one, you have to want it. It's so basic for me to say that. You have to want it. Sounds like garbage football analysis that we get on the internet all the time. Oh, you should just want it more. But at the moment, you got to question some of these lads' mentality. Do they care? Or are they just happy to take a paycheck and live their lives? It's just not the club for that. This is not, Man United has turned into the club where you just chill. You take a wage, chill. Like, I'd be so disappointed. If I was any of these players and I retire and I'd be like, okay, cool, I spent I spent 5 years at Manchester United, and we didn't win anything. We didn't have the right mentality. Like, you're going to be so disappointed in yourself. You just are. And that's something that doesn't work. You've got this one opportunity in life. You have to take it. That is it. You have to take it now. These players have spent their entire career trying to get to a club like Manchester United. They've tried. That's why they're here. So just believe in yourselves a little bit. You're here because you're here. You're here because you're good enough. So go. Have a go. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'd like to see more rotation in the football. I'd like to see better possession play out the back. I'd like to see Andre Onana not having to progress the play. There'd be a few things that I'd just like to see that we're just not having at the moment that would be really good. I'd like to see our pressing structure change to a 4-4-2 diamond press. There's so much stuff I'd like to see that is manager, that is player-led, that is, a combination of all these things. Now, I'd like to see Sofran Amrabat just stay on the pitch, number one. But hey, I can't. Unfortunately, it's not me. Ambitious. 15 million, not 50. Yeah, not bad. Pinaldo, Anthony's so bad. Yeah, confidence is gone. Head's fallen off. Omar in the chat. Left side doesn't work. Rashford and Scott poor defensively. So I think Fernandes has a lack of positional discipline at times. Numerous times when he gets stuck, he starts all the play over again. I think they just don't hold on to the ball well enough. Long and short of it, we just don't hold on to the ball. Bruno's pass accuracy, Premier League 77%. It's just, that's not the standard that we need. It should be a lot higher. I've said this multiple times. And it does mean something. It does mean something if your player's constantly giving the ball away. You can't maintain attacks. You can't maintain pressure. You can't maintain structure. Anyway. I'd love to see Amrabat just have a go. Yeah, Mahad, I don't know why he keeps subbing Amrabat. I don't get that. Whether it's a fitness thing, I don't know. And obviously, we've spoke about the fitness issues. United have got massive fitness issues. Humongous fitness issues because we're running too much in midweek. We're training too much. We're not tactically training. You can tell that we're not tactically training. It's flaming obvious. Abdullah, the 4-4-2 diamond lack width. So I wish we play 3-4-3 diamond. What I mean with the 4-4-2 diamond is more about the pressing structure, not actually how they play. So like Arsenal, for example, when they're pressing high out of your back, one of their DMs will jump, the wingers will move slightly narrow, your DM will be in. So you press in a diamond structure. City do it, Arsenal do it, all the best teams do it in European football. Obviously, when the ball breaks past that first bit of pressure, you drop back into that 4-4-2 shape. This is just defensively. On the ball, just using Arsenal as an example, having the ability to have someone to step into midfield. They've obviously got their possession shape. Odegaard as that 10. Saka in there. What you could have for Arsenal if they wanted to bring in a Kai Havertz, or what they do have, sorry. Let's say if Kai Havertz is in the team, Rice is holding. Zinchenko drops in and they do create that midfield diamond. United's possession structure's just not been good enough. It's not consistent. We don't consistently get into shapes like this, where we've got a fullback inverted every time, same side. And that's kind of the difference between my ideas on football and Erik ten Hag's ideas of football. He's very much, it's based on how you interpret the games. It gives the players too much responsibility, in my opinion, and that's something that I would change. And every single time you're playing Diogo Dalot, he steps into that midfield diamond. Every time, over and over again, and drill that in, because quite frankly the players aren't smart enough. It doesn't appear they've got enough intelligence to do it. They can't spot the right moments to step into midfield. Whereas Arsenal have very much got a fixed base. Every time it's Zinchenko Rice, Zinchenko Partey last season. Every time it's the same structure, and that's something that United lack. It's the same thing. They need repetition. We're not at that point yet where we can decide that ball's on one side of the pitch, or let's say the ball's on this side of the pitch, and then your right back steps inside. We're just not at that point yet. We need to do something over and over and over and over again. That would be the basic thing that I'd say to Erik ten Hag is we build the three. It's the same three players every single time. It's the same player moving into midfield from defence every time. City obviously do it with John Stones. He steps up from centre-back Cool, that could be the case. United don't have a player to facilitate that role, but that's an option. United don't have that. So one of the fullbacks into midfield every single time. So at least we have our box structure in that central area, because too many times we don't have the intelligence to do it, and we're basically like so broken where, again, I'll just flip United on so it makes more sense, but we could use any team. It doesn't really matter. No, we've just done Real Madrid. So like every time with United, like we've got potentially got the team. Let's throw in Anthony, Bruno, 10. So like defense, we defend like that, which again I've mentioned so many times, it's absolutely garbage. But when we attack, in terms of let's throw Victor Lindelof into left back, or let's put Luke Shaw at left back. So like when we attack, it's very much like the 8. We go wide. One of the 8s goes high, or one of the fullbacks goes high. Let's we'll drop the 8 to 8. We'll drop the half back in. What we have too much is this shape. What is the problem with this? Just like it's one of these things. What is the issue we got now? And this is how United look at. They generally look like this. Frequently look like this. Obviously, Luke Shaw's injured. Ignore Luke Shaw. Let's actually just put Johnny Evans in, Maguire to right centre half, and put Victor Lindelof in. Right, United genuinely look like this at times. What is the issue? Just get in the chat. What is the issue? Jonathan, I believe in Eric Ten Hag. What are some things missing compared to Ajax? Again, this kind of answers the question here, I think. Do you think Eric Ten Hag is have to manage minutes of players like Amrabat, Mount, Veran due to injuries and niggles? Yeah, because we're training too much, Aiden. We're doing too much intensive training midweek. Bruno's too high, no rolling in midfield. Yeah, it made it kind of... The simple problem is there's nobody in this zone. And let's say, let's say Scott's playing high. Bruno's wide right. Nobody is coming off into the zone. And it makes for a broken team in possession. The idea is that, like, one of the ideas is like the fullbacks like narrow at times. Like it should look like that. That's how the team should look if that's how we're building up. But it doesn't. We don't have these players that are in the correct positions to receive. And that's why I think it needs to just be like, you just stop being so fluid, back three. However, whichever defenders we got to use, back three. And then having Diogo Dalot inverting every time. We've already got a better coverage in that area. And that's every time. Same thing, over and over again. Because it looks like Jose, Mark. It looks like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where we have like 12 players on the back line and then nobody in that midfield area. And that comes down to like the individual intelligence of some of these players. And that's been a consistent issue. And that's why I think you have to be fixed. We've got to be really fixed in that sense. Like super fixed. Every time the same thing. Every time the same shape. And then start to work underlaps. And then, it's got to be super simple, I think. Same shape in possession every single time. Building up the same way. Getting the ball wide. Third man runs. Controlling the tempo. This shape will control the tempo. This is Johan Cruyffian. It works. Anyway. That's Man United. GG's. Get into the chat, guys. Your score predictions. Man United versus Fulham. I am not looking forward to this match. Oh, it just all stinks. The good news is that Jim Ratcliffe's coming in about 2 weeks, so hopefully that'll fix some stuff. There's going to be some movement at the top. People are going to get sacked. It's about time. Right. Let's get back to talking about Arsenal, which is far more fun for me right now. Oh, man, don't you drop a score prediction in like that. Don't you dare. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. I got to respect the score predictions, though. That's what I asked for. Is Maino available for the game? Yeah, he should be. Played midweek, 90 minutes. Mahad's going to go 1-1. Josh is going to go 2-1 United, I'm hoping. Vam is going to go 3-1 away win. Oh, Yash is saying... Saka is saying 1-0 United win. Is that right, Dave? Two weeks here. It's kind of from what I've heard. Again, may as well just tell you what I've heard. Why not? More fun. I can't be bothered anymore. Oh, Junior in the chat. I've got Lennon on my FPL team. Get him captained up. Absolutely. Jonathan's going to go 1-1. Oh. Ramesh, enough of the videos, Dave. Take Sam Homewood's help. He's an insider. Reach out to Ten Hag, help him fix things. Johnny 1-1. The issue is, like, I've reached out at certain times to help to make certain points, like when a point needs to be made, but they still just did stuff. They don't care. Like, I've got no value. What have I ever done in my life? To make videos. Although that's going to change shit soon. Don't you worry, guys. We'll be back. Stronger. Oh, gosh. Abdullah's going to go 3-2 Fulham. Yeah, could be a fair point. Johnny's going 1-1. Obviously, Johnny is our resident Newcastle United fan who do face Arsenal this weekend in the Premier League. I think this is going to be an absolute classic. So what you need to do, you need to watch this game and you flip over to the Copa Libertadores final, Fluminense versus Boca Juniors. We'll have a little chat on that, a little chat. Aiden, can we bring back Ollie? So we have two managers and have vibes and tactics. That would be great. Amar's going to go 2-0. But I do think this one's going to be a top quality game of football. But by top quality, I mean it could be a little snoozy. If you remember the game last season between the two sides at the Emirates, which was the game earlier on in the season, that's why I'm kind of bringing it up. It was very, very tight. Very, very tight. Very, very tight in the sense of not that many opportunities. Arsenal were slightly more defensively minded in the game. And, you know, Newcastle sat off in certain moments. I think the really interesting side with this Newcastle team is, you know, at the moment, they have a few injuries, so that could definitely hamper them in terms of, you know, their best 11 in a sense. You know, I think Isak is out at the moment, which is a big one for Newcastle United. He's been pretty sensational through the middle for them, really links to play well. Of course, Callum Wilson is one of the greatest super subs in the world. But that also is, you know, you've got Sven Botman out at the moment, which is pretty big. You know, you're looking at kind of second string. Obviously, Tonali's been banned. Fabian Schär may also miss the game with illness. So this is where, you know, the Newcastle squad, we kind of mentioned at the start of the season, where it's really going to start to, you know, show is after they've kind of got through some of these Champions League games and kind of where the squad's out. Because if you put their starting 11 in, they've lost a few of these players. You know, you got Tonali, which is, you know, a humongous miss. Is Joe Linton has just come back as well. So there's a few different areas where you think, you know, Arsenal could target this, Arsenal could target that. But in a sense, you know, if we bring up their starting 11 right now, we've got Sven Botman, we've got Fabian Schär in there. You know, luckily for Newcastle, Kieran Trippier's fit. Tonali's obviously out of the 11 with his worldwide suspension. So Sean Longstaff's likely to come in there. I think that the bigger issues, though, at centre-half is massive for Newcastle United. I expect Fabian Schär to definitely play this weekend, and Lascelles will probably come in and replace Sven Botman as he has done in the 11. The big thing with this team is the work they put on the opposition. And I think from an Arsenal perspective, you know, the building out from the back is, you know, super important that David Raya starts for one. But in terms of the old pressing structure, what we see with Newcastle is they do press with the three, and then they're kind of really aggressive with their two-man midfield. So I think from a sort of tactical perspective and how Arsenal could maybe overload this zone, knowing that they do squeeze super high, is having Zinchenko kind of narrow or be a little bit more advanced to play on the blind side of Joe Linton. So, there is an outball into that midfield area that will allow Arsenal to maybe bypass it. Alternatively, if he wants to kind of, drop in and rotate into that area, you've again got a free man. If you squeeze with Joe Linton on Zinchenko, or alternatively it's Rice, it's working the ball over and then maybe finding that pass out. I do think Zinchenko will be the outball in this situation. Or alternatively, you could overload, from a wide perspective, then switch back through the goalkeeper, pull their midfield over to one side, then back through goalkeeper, switch out, you're away with Jorginho. It's going to be really interesting in terms of how Arsenal figure it out, but I do think you could overload this pressing structure with it. And I do think that the pace of Arsenal, earlier in the game, if I'm Arsenal, you're going to go down that old school way of making sure that you're putting balls in behind their defence to Martinelli and Saka, just from the early parts of the game, to kind of stretch them, to pull those defenders back a little bit. Similar if you're looking for the big switch out to Martinelli, or alternatively it's coming from David Raya. It's that weapon that I don't think Arsenal use enough to pull the opposition back, and it's needed for Newcastle. And Raya's kicking is absolutely sensational. Eddie Nketiah is probably likely to start this game with Vinicius Jr., Gabriel Jesus' injury, but having that ball in behind Lascelles for David Raya to find will just keep them a little bit more compact, a little bit deeper. You're going to pull their midfield back, you'll have more space to play out, but I think that's going to be a real important thing at the start of the game, because as soon as Arsenal get into the final third, you got Martinelli and Saka on Trippier and Burn. That's a good position to be from an Arsenal perspective. The big concern, I think, for Arsenal this season as well has kind of been their right-hand side. I don't know if it's been as good as previous years. Obviously, the form of Odegaard hasn't been unbelievable in the last few weeks. Obviously, he set himself super high standards in the game. You'd say that had a little bit of a lull, in the games against Sevilla. Chelsea obviously was benched against Sheffield United. It's a little bit of a lull. Obviously came off the bench against West Ham and got himself a goal. I think there's definitely an idea here where for Arsenal to get back, they need that right-hand side to start flying, and Martin Odegaard is definitely one player that you could say, probably from the Bournemouth game in September, hasn't really played his best stuff, hasn't really impacted them how he should impact the side. We go through start of the season, was on a great run, had a great game against Manchester United, scored a classic Odegaard goal, arriving late at the edge of the penalty area. We've seen a lack of that goal impact, and I think that's been quite impactful. But on the flip side, Odegaard's longest run without a goal or an assist last season was just 3 matches. So there is definite quality in there. It's to get back into the game. When you're looking at the overloads, I think one of the big concerns at the start of the season was how deep Ben White was being used in build-up. One thing we spoke about was he's got to get back into an attacking sense to give that ability to create the overloads, but also create the interchange and the combination play, which should, in the long term, help Martin Odegaard up out in terms of his form. You look at the expected goal stats versus last season, they're less good than they were. The non-penalty XG last season for Arsenal per 90 was 1.82. This season it's 1.41. So last season for non-penalty XG per 90, Arsenal ranked 3rd in the Premier League. This season they're ranked 10th. So it's definitely something they need a little bit more fluidity in the final third to start to break things down. I do think that comes with injuries. Obviously Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, we've not really seen that forward line at all. Gabriel Jesus has had a lot of problems out with injury. We've seen Trossard play in that central position as well. But having him fit is going to be really important to improve those goal scoring numbers. I love Eddie Nketiah's ability to play as an advanced forward, but there's going to be less interchange with Martinelli. So Martinelli's goals dry up slightly, but also you get that lack of real ability to play with the ball to feet, to receive, and then to go. So it's just a slightly different answer, and hence why Arsenal heavily been linked with the likes of Ivan Toney in the summer. Newcastle, obviously the limit of their squad is something that's being really tested right now. Something that I thought they need to improve for the coming seasons. When we look at that starting 11 and you start to have the bodies drop out, your 2 best centre-backs, or Sven Botman, your best centre-back, is out with injury. Tonali, signed from AC Milan, is banned the squad starts to look a little bit lighter. Obviously, with Barnes out injured at the moment, and obviously Isak, who's injured and could be back at the weekend. He's starting to get a bit of an issue with the squad. It maybe he's not quite the level where it could be. Saying that, obviously they absolutely battered United with their second string this week, and that's credit to Eddie Howe. It's credit to the football culture they've created and the ability to squeeze and press high. Independent of who's playing, they've got that ability to go. Could be quite interesting to see a Matty Willock in this game, ex-Arsenal, of course, and he has got an eye for a goal. He's a player that does go on runs of form and runs of goals, so it could be right now the time to have him in that starting 11, get him into those advanced areas, combining with Anthony Gordon on the inside, on the outside. Anthony Gordon will provide a lot of energy, a lot of pressure, and has got that ability to beat a man 1v1. Josh, do you think Benjamin Sesko would be a good signing for Arsenal? Absolutely. Benjamin Sesko has been the forgotten man, it feels like, in European football. A lot of talk about Haaland, about Rasmus Højlund, which is going through the screens. But Benjamin Sesko is still very much one of the best young nines in world football. He's 20 years old this season in the Bundesliga, 3 goals in 7 games. He's also been scoring in Europe. He's a player that obviously has an immense amount of quality and will, be an absolute great. I think, it's the consistency that he needs to bring right now. So I think he'd be a great signing for Arsenal, but it might be better to leave him at Leipzig for maybe another 2 years or another year and then bring him in. Sesko with Arteta, you think about the player improvement and where Arsenal could be with someone like him. And the big thing is Arsenal probably a 9 away from winning the league. That's it. The difference is Haaland. Both City and Arsenal are very, very good football teams now. Got very, very good players. Arsenal are only going to get better again with their age and profile. So, it's one of those things. They've got, you'd say, the best centre-back in European football right now, William Saliba. He's a man that's absolutely outstanding. Doesn't get dribbled past. Is superb on the ball. He destroyed Haaland. He's just that type of defender that every manager will absolutely love. Against Sheffield United, he had 134 touches of the football, completed 123 passes out of 128 passes at a 96% completion rate, made 12 ball recoveries and completed 3 long passes. He's a player of absolutely supreme ability on the ball, fast, pacey, dominant in the air. He's exactly what you want in a young centre-back. And for me, he's the best centre-back in the world right now. Complete package is so good. Ranks in the top 10% of centre-backs in European football. Passes completed, pass completion rate, percentage of dribblers tackled, challenges lost, and progressive passing distance. A superb signing for Arsenal. It took a bit of time for him to get into the first team, but, absolutely brilliant. And he's a player that will be much needed for this game. This could be a game where Arsenal have spells. They're defending, backs against the wall stuff. Saliba, very, very important for Arsenal right now. Finch, nobody in the Bundesliga is best at anything. The league is trash. Okay, come on. You're better than that. There's been some players from the Bundesliga that really haven't worked out, but go and look at Florian Wirtz. He's the next big cheese coming out of the Bundesliga, and he is a very, very good player. Let's get your score predictions in for this game. Newcastle will be kind of that counter-attacking style. We'll be breaking on Arsenal. Miguel Almiron, Wilson, Gordon, with the 2 central midfielders. Arsenal going to have to contain that ability to break and really kind of deal with that. But do get your score predictions in for today for this game. Arsenal away at St James's Park. I'm kind of excited for this one. It should be an absolute corker. It'll be pressing. There'll be aggression. And as well, if Arsenal want to win the Premier League, these are the types of games they've got to get results in. They've got to get results or they've got to win these games of football. That is the next step for them. It really is. But this Newcastle team is not to be, misjudged. Johnny's going to go for a 1-1. Quite conservative, Johnny. You are a resident Newcastle United fan. You can, back your team if you want, Johnny. Josh is going to go 2-1 to Arsenal. We've got Matt Had's going to go 2-1 Newcastle. That's a great point from CMOI. Wasn't Bellingham in the Bundesliga? Absolutely. Abdul Loki's going to go 1-0 Newcastle, but it'll be a boring game. I've also just seen the news that City are hoping to sign Kobe Mainoo. Well, that would ruin my season. CM's going to go 3-2 Newcastle. Finch is going to go 3-3 draw. Mark's also saying the Bundesliga shaped Jude Bellingham. Great spot, guys. Lovely, lovely stuff. Well, guys, I think that's it. We'll just do a little, tiny little bit on the Copa Libertadores final. Fluminense versus Boca Juniors at the Maracanã on Saturday night. This could be an absolute corking game of football. I'd recommend watching it just for the culture. Get involved for the culture. Relationalism, which we've got a video going out today on the Statman Dave YouTube channel. It's a bit of a banger. It's a little crazy. We're talking about concepts that are very new to football, which is really interesting to dive into that and do the analysis on it. But Fluminense play this relationist style, very much focused on getting players in and around the ball. Their shapes that they create are absolutely crazy. The circles they create, or the silly circles they create, very, very fascinating in terms of watching. Obviously any Liverpool fan or Arsenal fan, definitely watch Andre. Andre, defensive midfielder, hub of the team, gets on the ball a lot. Player to really watch out for. Arias, I do like Arias as well. Winger, plays on the right, will take you on the outside. Scored twice in this game, completed 93% of his passes. He's mobile, good. Obviously the legendary Ganso, attacking midfielder. We all know him from the days of Football Manager. And Cano through the middle is just an absolute Barry Bagsman this season. For Boca Juniors, I think the main guys to watch out for is left back or left winger. Valentin Barco is a player of immense quality. Will be playing for a top European side very, very soon. He is very, very, very good. And he's a player that not only has that ability 1v1 in the dribble and the carry, he's got great close control, he's got great vision. Really, really good vision. So he's someone to definitely check out as well. Cristina Medina as well, another midfielder that could play in a variety of playmaking positions. Effective in the duels as well. There's two players to watch out from Boca, but it will definitely be worth watching. Available on the BBC, on BBC Three. So definitely go and check it out. Just a bit of fun. You know what I mean? Bit of fun this weekend. I'd really recommend it. The football will be good. It's Brazil versus Argentina. It's great times. But anyway, guys, that's been that for today's stream. Big GGs in the chat. Much love to all you wonderful people. And we will see you next time. We're going to be back on Monday with the Premier League review and Tuesday. And then, again, same time next week